We are not going to let the fake news tell us what to do, how to live, or what to believe. We are free and independent people, and we will make our own choices.
That was Donald Trump last night in Florida. And this morning, we are thankful to be joined by the anchor of Fox News Sunday, Chris Wallace. Chris, good morning.
Hey, Chris.
Good morning, Chris.
Hey, guys. So I'm sure you saw the speech. I know you did. Last night, the president continued his blistering attacks against the mainstream media, but he made some historical references, and I want to play this and get you to react to it. Take a listen.
Thomas Jefferson, Andrew Jackson, and Abraham Lincoln, and many of our greatest presidents fought with the media and called them out, oftentimes on their lies.
Chris, we did some research. Thomas Jefferson called the press the only toxin of a nation. Lincoln said newspapers lie and then they re-lie. Are we putting too much into the fact that he's going after the press that's clearly going after him?
Well, yeah, I didn't know you were going to say this, but in fact, I have a historical reference here from Thomas Jefferson, who back in 1787,
I
really didn't know you were going to say this, said this, and I think we need to keep this in context. He said, "Were it left to me to decide whether we should have a government without newspapers or newspapers without a government, I should not hesitate a moment to prefer the latter." Yes, presidents have always had, and politicians have always had, problems with the press. They want good press. The press doesn't always give it to them. But what Jefferson there is, despite all of our disputes, that to the functioning of a free and fair democracy, you must have an independent press. And that is why so many people were really upset when Donald Trump said, look, we're big boys. We criticize presidents. They want to criticize us back. That's fine.
Yeah.
But when he said that the fake news media is not my enemy, it's the enemy of the American people, I believe that crosses an important line.
One of those people that are up in arms about this is Senator John McCain, who's overseas at the moment, and he says that the president's attacks are a sign of a dictatorship. Here's what he said.
If you want to preserve democracy as we know it, you have to have a free and many times adversarial press. And without it, I'm afraid that we would lose so much of our individual liberties over time. That's how dictators get started. The first thing that dictators do is shut down the press. And I'm not saying that that President Trump is trying to be a dictator. I'm just saying we need to learn the lessons of history.
Chris, what do you make of those remarks and also the battle that is brewing between President Trump and John McCain? Because, as you know, these two need each other.
Well, I would say that in terms of what John McCain said there, particularly with the clarification, he's not saying that Trump is starting to become a dictator, but that trying to shut down an independent and fair media or free media, not necessarily even fair. Part of what the founder said is it can be unfair, but the idea is that in the wash of all of the media coming out with all of their reports, it's a check on power, and that and he was saying that in dictatorships, there's state-run media, and there's no opportunity for a free, independent press. So I think he's exactly right there. As far as Trump and McCain, it's absolutely going to be a continuing soap opera saga in this administration. Sharp differences between the two, especially when it comes to foreign policy, especially when it comes to Russia.
Reince Priebus on your show this morning has said overnight even some critical things about the press and that relationship. What are you going to be talking with him about today?
I'm going to be talking to him about the press and that relationship. I think this is an important time, frankly, for the media to strike back. Look, we are not included in the list of people that, the list of deplorables, if you will, that Donald Trump said, but we were singled out by Barack Obama. And I don't think it matters whether it's the president is singling out the organization that you represent or the other organizations. It's wrong. I mean, we can take criticism, but to say that we're the enemy of the American people, I think really crosses an important line. In addition, we're also going to have Rush Limbaugh. Can't wait to get him involved in this conversation.
Well, he'll certainly have comments on that. You talk about the free and independent press, which is totally correct. But what President Trump would say is, I'm taking on the hidden bias. I'm taking on a press that tells you they're unbiased, but actually the New York Times has a massive bias, and then we're supposed to pretend like that's the mainstream media. That's the paper of record. You know, when our founders were there were partisan press. Papers were Republican or Democrat or Federalist, and it was open about it. He's saying they tell you they're unbiased, but I know they're biased because I see the fake news. Is there something there? It's not about the independent press. It's about the bias of the press.
I think there's absolutely something there, Pete. And if he had said that, you wouldn't have heard a peep out of me. I mean, Lord knows Barack Obama criticized Fox News. Donald Trump wants to criticize the New York Times. That's fine. But it's different from saying that we are an enemy of the American people. That's a different thing.
Yeah.
And people need, and I know that there are a lot of listeners out there who are going to reflexively take Donald Trump's side on this. It's a different thing when a president, because if it's a president you like who talks about trying to, the press being the enemy of the people, then it's going to be a president you don't like saying the same thing. And that's very dangerous.
We look forward to your show, Chris. It's going to be a good one.
Thanks, Chris.
A lot to talk about. Good to see you.
Thanks, Chris.